Think back to the last time you finished eating and felt genuinely good. Not full, not bloated, but good. Light, alert, and energized. Can you even remember it? Because for most people, the answer is no. Instead, it is those more familiar feelings. That tight, bloated stomach after a meal that you call being stuffed, but it happens after every single meal, no matter how much or how little you eat. That exhausted feeling about 30 minutes after eating. Not sleepiness, but an unexplainable kind of fatigue. And that endless craving loop. You finish eating, you are full. And then 20 minutes later, you want to eat something else. You thought it was from overeating, or from choosing the wrong foods, or simply because that is just how your body works. It is not. Those are signals from the 39 trillion microbes living in your gut. And they are being poisoned meal by what the food industry calls convenience food. Over the next 13 minutes, we are going to walk through each week of those 30 days. Not as a motivational speech, and not as a challenge, but according to the exact biology that happens inside your gut when you stop putting those things into it. And I am going to tell you exactly why week 3 is the point where everything changes completely, and why most people give up during that exact week. Let us break it down. Here is what is truly happening inside your body. Your gut is not a pipe, and it is not a passive digestive machine. It is a living ecosystem, with more than 100 trillion microbes, weighing about 3.3 pounds, which is about 1.5 kilograms. And it makes decisions about your energy, immunity, hormones, and even your mood every second of the day. That ecosystem operates on a simple principle: what you feed grows. Ultra-processed food is not just bad food, it is weed killer poured into that garden every single day. Emulsifiers in industrial sweets break down the protective mucous layer of the gut wall. Preservatives kill off beneficial bacteria, and industrial sugar feeds and multiplies harmful bacteria. After years, you no longer have the original garden. You have an ecosystem that has been replaced, and that ecosystem is running your body in ways that have never been explained to you. When you stop pouring weed killer, the garden begins to heal itself, but it is not even, and it is not linear. Week 1 is very different from week 2, and week 3 is completely different from anything before it. By the 8th minute, you will understand why most people give up during the exact week they are about to cross the true tipping point, and why that is the most expensive mistake they could ever make. The first week, from day 1 to day 7, is when the system fights back. This is something few people tell you before you start. When you eliminate ultra-processed food, those harmful bacteria that have been fed on industrial sugar and additives for years do not go away quietly. They fight back. More specifically, when their favorite food source suddenly disappears, they release endotoxins, inflammatory toxins, into the gut wall as a survival mechanism. At the same time, the protective mucous layer of the gut wall begins to regenerate, but is not yet thick enough to completely block those toxins. The gut immune system, which accounts for 70% of your body's total immune system, begins a re-inventory process after years of operating in a state of chronic inflammation. You will feel it clearly: more bloating than usual, intense cravings, especially for sugar and carbohydrates, fatigue, discomfort, and irritability in ways that you cannot explain to the people around you. Here is the most important point about week 1. This is not your body protesting the change. This is the harmful bacteria fighting back because they are losing their habitat. You are not weak. You are winning, and they know it. Research from the National Institutes of Health on the lipopolysaccharide mechanism shows that this inflammatory response is measurable in the blood and peaks around day 3 to day 5, after which it begins to decrease. Most people give up here, right on day 3 or day 4, right at the peak of the counterattack. And that is exactly what the harmful bacteria want, because what happens in week 2 is the reason you must get through week 1. The second week, from day 8 to day 14, is the calm before the storm. This is the most dangerous week, not because it is hard, but because it is not hard enough. Inside your body, important things are happening. The population of harmful bacteria begins to decline. Without their favorite food source, their numbers steadily drop. beneficial bacteria, especially lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, begin to re-emerge but are not yet in sufficient numbers to truly control the ecosystem. And more importantly, the tight junctions, those protein joints between the cells of the gut wall that were broken down by emulsifiers, begin to re-establish. This is the foundation being built. You do not see it, and you do not feel it clearly. What you do feel is that the symptoms from week 1 ease up. Your body returns to a normal state, not worse, and not noticeably better. And your brain interprets that in a very specific way. It tells you that you are done, that continuing is unnecessary, and that a cheat meal will not make any difference. Research from the University of California, San Francisco, on the microbiome recovery timeline shows that this is the moment when behavior change has the highest relapse rate, not because of weak willpower, but because there is no feedback signal from the body to reinforce continuing. You are building a foundation that you cannot see yet, and then comes day 15. This is where everything changes in a way that no one warns you about beforehand. The third week from day 15 to day 21 is the point of no return. 3 things happen simultaneously this week, and their combination is why week 3 is different from everything that came before. First is the microbiome tipping point, where the beneficial bacteria population crosses the control threshold. For the first time in perhaps years, they dominate your gut ecosystem. And when that happens, they begin to produce butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that your gut wall cells have been starved of for a long time. Butyrate is the primary fuel source for gut wall cells, not glucose, not protein, but butyrate. When it appears in sufficient amounts, the gut wall is properly nourished for the first time and begins to heal at a completely different speed. Second, the gut-brain axis activates. 90% of your body's serotonin, not in the brain but in the gut, is produced by gut cells under the stimulation of beneficial bacteria. As the microbiome recovers, serotonin production increases, and the vagus nerve, the main communication channel between the gut and the brain, begins to transmit steadier, clearer signals with less noise. You will notice it in unexpected ways: deeper sleep, more stable mood throughout the day, and baseline anxiety dropping in ways that are hard to describe but clear. It is not because you are eating healthier. It is because your gut is sending different signals up to your brain. Third, the leaky gut begins to close. The tight junction proteins, claudin and occludin, resynthesize enough to prevent undigested food molecules, bacteria, and endotoxins from crossing the gut wall into the bloodstream. Systemic inflammation begins to decrease, and c-reactive protein, a measurable inflammation marker in blood tests, drops to a detectable level. Research from the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry on butyrate and the gut barrier, along with research from the California Institute of Technology on the connection between the microbiome and serotonin, both confirm that these changes occur simultaneously and reinforce each other, creating a positive feedback loop for the first time since the ecosystem was disrupted. This is the signal most people miss, not because it is invisible, but because they gave up in week 1 or week 2 before it had a chance to happen. But week 3 is just the starting point, because what happens in week 4 is why 30 days is the number, not 21, and not 14. The fourth week, from day 22 to day 30, is the new system. In this week, microbiome diversity increases significantly. Research from Stanford University shows that the gut bacteria diversity index increases by an average of 35% after 30 days of eliminating ultra-processed food. And that diversity matters, because a diverse ecosystem is a stable ecosystem, capable of recovering after disruptions and adapting to what you eat next. The gut immune system completes its rebalancing process. Regulatory T cells, the cells responsible for preventing the immune system from overreacting to normal food, re-establish response thresholds. As a result, many types of food that you previously thought you were intolerant to, you begin to be able to eat without symptoms. And the most important thing, ghrelin and leptin, the 2 hormones that control hunger and fullness, begin to function properly after years of being disrupted by food additives and industrial sugar. This is why you crave less food in week 4. Not because your willpower is stronger, but because your hormones are finally talking straight to you. Energy is stable throughout the day, with no more peaks and valleys after meals. Digestion becomes predictable. The body operates on a schedule you can trust. After 30 days, you do not just have a cleaner gut, you have a different ecosystem. And that ecosystem is making different decisions about your energy, immunity, and mood without you having to try. Now, here is what you actually need to do to make those 30 days happen. Step number 1 is identifying the enemy correctly. Ultra-processed food is not just fast food or junk food in the conventional sense. The exact definition, according to Nova Group 4 classification, is any product containing ingredients that do not exist in your kitchen. Substances created in a laboratory to extend shelf life, improve texture, or amplify flavor in ways that natural food cannot do. 4 core ingredients to recognize on product labels are emulsifiers like E471 and E472, agents that break down the gut mucous membrane. Carrageenan is a thickening agent that causes inflammation of the gut wall. High-fructose corn syrup is an industrial sugar that the liver must process entirely on its own. And sodium nitrite is a preservative in processed meats that kills beneficial bacteria. The simplest rule: if the label has ingredients you cannot buy at the supermarket, it is ultra-processed food. Step number 2 is a replacement protocol, not elimination. Your brain reacts strongly to a sense of deprivation. When you try to completely eliminate something suddenly, it triggers stronger cravings, not because you are weak, but because that is how dopamine works when its supply is suddenly cut. The principle here is to replace each category, not eliminate everything all at once. Week 1, replace processed snacks with real fruit and protein. Week 2, replace sugary drinks with water and natural electrolytes. Weeks 3 and 4, gradually replace processed main meals with simple whole foods. No need to be complicated, no need for elaborate cooking. Step number 3 includes 3 foods that accelerate microbiome recovery. Inulin from garlic and onions. This is a prebiotic that directly feeds beneficial bacteria. No expensive supplements are needed. Cooking with garlic and onion every day is enough. Fermented food, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut. A 2022 study from Stanford University directly compared a diet rich in fermented foods to a high-fiber diet, and the result was that fermented food increased microbiome diversity more effectively. Not more fiber, fermented foods, resistant starch, unripe green bananas, cooked and then cooled sweet potatoes. Resistant starch passes through the small intestine undigested and becomes direct food for butyrate-producing bacteria in the large intestine. This is how you feed the garden from the inside. Step number 4 is tracking week 3 with 3 specific indicators. Sleep quality. You will notice deeper sleep and falling asleep more easily, which is a sign that the gut-brain axis is recovering. Post-meal craving levels compared to week 1. A noticeable reduction here is a sign that hunger hormones are rebalancing. And afternoon energy. If that 2 o'clock in the afternoon crash begins to diminish, it is a sign that glucose regulation function is being restored. Those 3 indicators do not require tests, and they do not require devices. It just requires you to pay attention. Now you have the translation. Here is what is truly happening when you eat ultra-processed food every day. You are not just eating bad food. You are hiring a new army of bacteria, an army designed to want more, digest worse, and miscommunicate with your brain. And that army, after years, becomes the default ecosystem your body operates under. 30 days is not a diet, and it is not a willpower challenge. It is the minimum time for the old ecosystem to weaken enough so that the new ecosystem is strong enough to maintain itself without constant effort from you. Week 3 is not magic. It is biology, and biology has its own schedule. Not faster, not slower. Your body is not broken. It is responding to what you put in. Change the input, and the system changes accordingly. The question is not whether your gut can recover. The question is whether you will give it a full 30 days. Comment decode below if you have ever tried to eliminate ultra-processed food and gave up before reaching week 3. I want to know on which day you stopped. And the next video decodes what happens to your brain. Not your gut, but your brain, after 30 days without sugar. Because sugar does not just affect weight or energy. It affects how your brain cells communicate with each other, how memories are stored, and how emotions are processed. What happens on day 21 in the brain parallels what we just talked about regarding the gut today, but the mechanism is completely different, and it affects everyone over 35 years old in a way that most neurologists still have not brought into daily conversations with patients.